Good afternoon. Phil Simons here with Columbia Grain and your Friday afternoon weekly market recap. Well, this week is definitely one for the history books. And if there is one thing that I can guarantee you, it's that in a few years from now, we will definitely be saying, remember when? And be referring to this point in history. But let's dive right into it, as this week's volatility is off the charts in the grain complex. But let's take a look and see what it looks like on paper here. So I'm going to share my screen with you again so that we can take a look at what the overall price ranges were throughout the week in the commodity complex. Starting out with Chicago wheat, and we're going to look at the nearby being May futures now. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see that the weekly price range for Chicago wheat was a massive $3.24. And the net weekly change, by the time the dust settled today, was $2.79. Interesting to note here is that today's close on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see Friday's close, which was 12.09, was also the weekly high. So you can see the massive volatility that we're seeing right now, primarily in the wheat complex. But also in similar fashion, let's take a look at the Kansas City futures. Again, looking at May as the lead month now. On the right-hand side of the screen, we can see that the weekly price range in Kansas was again a massive $3.08. And by the time that the dust settled, the net weekly change and also a gain was $2.66 on the week. We can see on the left side of the screen that today's close, being Friday, was at 12.14, not quite at the weekly high of 12.25, but again very close to the weekly highs close as well today. Minneapolis wheat had a massive week as well in terms of price ranges at $2.08. By the time that the dust settled here today, the net weekly change accounted for a gain of $1.49. And in similar fashion, we did not close today at the last tick, high tick kind of session, but again at the higher end of the range. Corn, the corn pit had an overall weekly price range of $1.09. And a net weekly change of 69 cents. Again, similar fashion, was not a last tick, high tick kind of close, but again, at the higher end of the range. Soybeans had been the price volatility leader up until really last week, as everybody was more concerned on the South American Brazil soybean production. But again, weekly price range for soybeans took a backseat to the wheat complex and came in at an overall of 86 cents. In terms of the weekly price range, and was able to hold on to a gain for the week of 31 cents. So you can see that the volatility is still well intact and just massively explosive. But I do want to talk about the continued conflict in Russia and Ukraine, and why do we see the wheat complex as the major benefactor in terms of price movements. So to really show you, let's take a look at the world's major wheat exporters. So you can see on this pie chart here that US, Ukraine, and Russia are really in the top 4 world wheat exporters and represent close to 85 million metric tons of the world wheat total trade, which is 195 million metric tons of export. So roughly between these 3 countries, between the US, Ukraine, and Russia, these 3 countries represent 43% of the world wheat export trade. So you can see the importance of Ukraine and Russia and the importance that they have on the overall world wheat trade, and the answer to anyone's question as far as where do buyers go if the threat continues and we cannot load wheat out of this part of the world. So you can see the importance here. And to a degree, corn also has some concern with export execution out of Ukraine, as Ukraine is the world's 4th largest exporter of corn. So again, we are definitely seeing continued volatility and just explosive volatility. And this is really an understatement to what we've experienced this past week. So not only do we have a rush to own commodities from the Ukraine and the Russian conflict, but we also have a significant inflation rates being reported. And the commodity complex is historically viewed as a natural hedge against inflation. And so we are also seeing a massive rush to own commodities as a natural hedge. But putting this all together, we can see the end result is the overall price ranges from this week. And this chart that we're looking at right now is the continuous Chicago wheat chart. And this really does sum everything up very nicely. You can see here that we actually made a new high today of $13.48. Again, this is the continuous wheat chart, so this will be looking at the March futures. But the interesting thing to note here is the 1348 that was made today took out the previous high, which was back in 2008, which was at 1334. So from a chart perspective, we definitely made an objective here as at a new high. But really the important thing to remember here is that in 2008, that high of 1334 was also made in February and March. Now, it's really more important to note that by May of 2008, we were trading back to $7.60. So although we had this great big run that you can see here, we also had a great big fall as well. So again, now is the time to go over your marketing plan and take advantage of the current marketing conditions that are here, because you can see that we have been here before and subsequently went back to more of a normal type trading range very, very quickly. So really stay tuned for Sunday night as we reopen, and all aspects right now are pointing to another very highly volatile session come Sunday evening. And remember that everyone has a marketing plan that will work until you use it. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll talk with you next week.